all hot Papercraft.
Greetings, I'm Captain Rachel Garrett of the Starship Enterprise. And as you may know, I am one of the most awesome female captains in the history of Starfleet, and a true legend. It was my sacrifice in the Battle of Narendra III which made the alliance between the Klingon Empire and the Federation possible. Well, of course, I'm not Captain Rachel Garrett, I'm just Chris, but today I want to talk a little bit to you about her ship, which is, of course, the Enterprise NCC-1701-C. And this Enterprise was a ship of the Ambassador class, and here we have the U.S.S. Ambassador, the first ship of this class. And there are actually two free models available of this ship. And as this is my favorite starship from all of Star Trek, I want to introduce those two wonderful models to you.
This is actually my own Enterprise C, which I built many years before. And this is unfortunately also the only surviving photo of it, and the model is also not survived. As you can see, I never even wrote the NCC-1701-C on it. And this was just built from the top view from the Next Generation Technical Manual. I didn't have any side views or anything. I also wasn't able to look at the VHS because the quality was too low to recognize anything. And it was just built from paper directly, then painted with paints, and it also included the transparent parts, as you can see on the nacelles. And of course, this has some funny, interesting stuff which is not really correct, like the shape of the bridge, and the shuttle bay is also not correct. So there are some things which are not correct. But that was my own one. And of course, it's only that single one. There's no plans from it. Skip's Ambassador class doesn't really have any instructions. It has this one picture, but most of it is pretty straightforward, and you can figure it out by yourself which part goes where. So the model pages of Skip's Ambassador class, and as you can see, the quality is not exactly great. You can see very strong pixelated style. And you have many tabs to cut out of, obviously. Then you have some really funny tabs, like around here, like where it's very narrow. Narrow tabs, that's just confusing. Again, you don't need to use the score lines. You can just make it round. And then again, here we have, this is a bit confusing because this part is actually the bottom of the bridge. So the bottom of the bridge, which you glue then to here. So this model has a lot of this kind of stuff where you have surfaces which are not going to be seen later. That can be a little bit confusing, but again, you can figure it out pretty easily. And then more saucer parts, and this is the dome in the bottom of the saucer. And then what's really a little bit annoying about this one is like that you're going to waste a lot of paper. So if you can rearrange the parts before printing, then I would recommend to do that. Some small tabs are confusing here. Again, the positioning of the tabs is pretty inconsistent. So like why is tab one time like this, one time like this? Again, this is, or why there's a tab like here, why is a tab like here? So many tabs are actually also, you don't know which one should you use, and they are missing, so you need to pay a lot of attention to the tabs. Here again, you have those surfaces, this surface, this surface. This surface, they are all things that which are not going to be seen because they will be glued on the inside, which is obviously again something that the software has been doing. Then the fuselage is pretty good. So again, as you can see here, so this is where it seems that parts are missing. Yeah, so you could see that in the model. You will see that in the model. And that's a bit annoying that it seems there are parts missing. The deflector is pretty simple, just straight. And you'll see that in the Clever's model, it's more detailed. Then these are formats for inside. You can pretty much ignore these two because actually they give the wrong shape to the fuselage, because or the hull, because the hull section is actually is pretty much a circle, as we will see in the comparison. So just ignore these two. You can use this one. I think it's good help to put this one in the center. Then here we have this barrel or something, which is actually glued in the middle of the saucer section to, under here or above here. So to avoid that the saucer will go together. And then the nacelles, okay, so and again here you have this part, which is actually in the middle. So it's going around here in the middle. And then this part is also facing here in the middle. So this is again something which you're not going to see in the end. But you're going to need it because the window is a little bit smaller. And same thing here, this is the back side. So this back side, this two will actually be glued together later. Then we have the pylon. So this is the U.S.S. Ambassador. And this is the model which is a little bit easier to build actually. But the artwork is a little more rough. It's also more pixelated. As you can see here, the registry number is not really sharp, yeah. But if you have it under your ceiling or something, then those things wouldn't really matter. They also they did make a really good effort with the artwork. So for example, the red light here from the Buzzard Collectors is a really nice touch. Also the deflector looks okay. Let's just go through this model from front to back. And here, of course, we have the bridge module, which has like several small rings. This is the second most difficult thing to build on this one. And interestingly, there's the hatches here. It's like coming out a little bit. I don't know which is more correct. You will see on the other one that it's different there. And then you have you need to cut out the several rings. And here you can already see the problem with this kind of model is because you see how this is not really, it doesn't really have the right shape because there's a valley here, right? And this is because, look, there's nothing inside of here. There's no former or nothing to keep it strong. So I guess if you would have stronger paper, it will be better. But here on this one, I didn't put anything additionally inside. There's just one thing, something here in the middle to hold the two of them apart. Yeah. But you see, this is still the problem, and this is actually the next time I'm going to. Well, actually, the second time I built the other one, I actually built something in here to make it more stronger. And as you can see in the Enterprise video, the original Enterprise video, that model has many structures inside to make the saucer more strong. Then here we have this whatever this is on the bottom, radome or whatever. So this small structure here, this is actually the most difficult to build because you have these really small rings. And what I tried when I built it is I tried to make those things more round. Of course, you can also use the score lines, yeah, to make it. I just rounded the parts. Maybe that was my problem. Maybe that's why it didn't come out so well. I don't know. And then we come to the connection between the main hull and the saucer, or I don't know, the saucer, the main hull, the engineering hull and the saucer. And here we have, so there's the impulse engine, and here we have this part, and there is one thing here which is inside, and then I think that the problem here is that, as you can see here, you see this angle doesn't really match up with the angle on the saucer. And I don't know if this is if I just didn't do it good enough, but it doesn't add up, and you need to adjust it a little bit. Then here the deflector is just flat, and the interesting thing about this fuselage is like they don't have the model doesn't include any formers or stiffeners for the saucer, but there are formers here for this main hull. And or this engineering hull, I don't know what it's called. And then the funny thing is that this makes the fuselage more wide here, that actually here you have trouble to fitting it. So well, then again, it's good to have it because it holds the fuselage here stronger. Otherwise, this would also be very loose. And then, of course, here you have the main, the pylons, right? So the thing about the pylons is that you only have the small edge here and the small edge here. And what I actually did already on this one is I was worried this is not going to hold. So what I actually did is I put in a stronger cardboard piece to keep this, strong enough. And here you can see it. And then the fuselage here in the bottom is fine, yeah. So here's Skip, who's the designer, of course. And then there's probably the biggest problem with this model, and I don't know why is it like this. So it seems that part of the fuselage is missing. Okay, so actually there's supposed to be a shuttle bay back here, but it seems that from this part to this part something is missing. Okay, so I just glued it here on the top. Yeah, I don't know why this would happen. Like, completely forget a part. Maybe the place where I downloaded it has one sheet missing. I don't really know. Okay, and then finally we have the nacelles, and the nacelles. The Bazet scoop here is pretty. This side I didn't do it. This side I also didn't do it well. So this Bazet scoop is still not so difficult. You see, you have just like several cones here. And then what's really interesting here is how you have some double parts. We saw it on model pages where the glass part is built inside of those two, and then they are wrapped around it. Then down here you don't have so much detail. You just have this one bulge, yeah. And then here in the front, where the nacelle narrows down, it's not really working very well. And no detail here on the upper part, which we are going to see in comparison with the other model. But you see, actually, this one is except for, having to cut out all the little tabs here. This is quite a fun build, yeah. And if you don't want to put in a lot of effort, then this is clearly the better choice. And Enterprise by Clever. This is the cover page. I don't know if this is the Romulan. If this is the Battle at Narendra 3, and this is a Romulan, a D7 or what? Okay, again, same thing here. You have many tabs to cut out. And what's confusing again is because it was not edited well enough after exported from 3D, you have those cones together and you have a very confusing positioning of tabs. Just ignore the tabs, cut them apart. It's probably easier. You have very small parts, like this is like on the side of the bridge. Then you have this is another, again here, very thin. This is the dome in the bottom, again very thin parts. Again, I cut them apart. I thought that was easier. You see, here is actually the position where you will glue the phaser banks. Yeah, you have to compare with the blueprints always. Then the deflector. This is the deflector, which is actually domed, and then this is the socket of the deflector, which is confusing to build. The pulse engine, and then here you have the phaser banks, which you have to glue on by hand, and then you have to always compare with the blueprint. But it seems there are some phaser banks which are actually missing. Formers here to give good shape to the body, to the hull, and then the nacelles. Again here, yeah. So this is really confusing. Like how are you supposed to build this, right? And then you have many small cuts and stuff. which are a little bit annoying. Like here, like you cut in like, oh, how do you glue this? Yeah, look at this. It's a little bit annoying, but you can get used to it. In other models, he didn't do it, so maybe this was one of his earlier models. And yeah, then here's the things which are under the nacelle and the connecting part of the two hulls. And then in the back you have the specs, you have the blueprint in black and white, and you have the blueprint in color. And this is actually where you can see where so these two phaser banks, for example, are missing. This phaser bank is also missing, so don't get confused. And the instructions for the Enterprise C are basically like this. Here you can get to see the parts, and then which part is which ring for the rings here. Yeah, the different rings. Then here the phaser banks, and then more rings. You see the red part is always a part which has a number here. More phaser banks, and then you have some 3D views how to build parts. Like the socket here is very confusing because of the perspective. Don't get too confused by this one. Yeah, because this is the front, but it could also be the other way around. This could also be inside. Okay, then here again, remember you put something inside. Yeah, and the main hull. This thin part is a little bit annoying to build. The bridge, very tiny parts, and then this is the connecting part. And the nacelles, and what's really nice is here this. So here's the Enterprise C, and as you can see, the artwork is much clearer on this one. Yeah, the letters are sharp. Yeah, and of course the fuselage is complete. Yeah, that's a good thing, and it has a lot of more details than the Ambassador. And once again, we go through it one by one. So again, we have the rings here, the same thing. And again, it's the same difficulty here with, trying to not make it too flabby. And actually, so I have the formers in here, right? So there's former here along the length, but actually turned out that wasn't enough, so that's why the saucer is not really shaped very well, right? And so here on the bridge you have much more detail. So whereas on the other one, the bridge was just this dome was just round, you have a lot of detail here on the dome, yeah, which leads to very small parts. And then there's another shuttle bay here. Then the phaser banks, they are glued on. Yeah. So you have to look at the schematics to see where the phaser banks need to go. And then here on the lower side, like this time, this one is a real fiddly part because it's really tiny. This was printed on A4. I wouldn't recommend to go smaller than this. Good, and again here, the weak point is the connection between the two fuselages or hulls. And in this case, it didn't fit at all. So what I actually did is I actually cut a hole in the saucer here. To make sure that this part is fitting accurately. Then you have again, no, is it sharp? So then you have the deflector, and actually the deflector here doesn't the artwork here of the deflector, I think, is not as good as, because there's some small detail is missing here. But the interesting thing about this one is that this is actually bulged, right? So this is like round inside. So it's also, of course, more difficult to build. Then it has some additional detail here where you have this additional step in the fuselage. The fuselage here it has one former here and another former here in the front. And yeah, you see this. Okay, and then here in the back is you again can see that the proportions are very different. And actually, there's one phaser bank missing, which should be here, as you can see from the schematics. Once again, and then another thing that this one has, it has this spine thing here on the top, which the other version doesn't have. Once again, you have, of course, the pylons for the engines, and again, you know, this wouldn't hold very well if you would just make it loosely. So that's why, again, there is stronger cardboard here inside to make it, you know, somewhat strong enough. What's really great about this one is the detail on the engine, on the main engines. So you have, of course, the buzzard scoop. And the buzzard scoop is more round here. It has many small parts, as we saw before. And then the connection here, where it goes from round to, like, you know, a little bit rounded, squared. Yeah. You also have formers, as we saw, to make this round. And this is coming out. So this part is working much better. And then to gluing the engine together can be, because you have the two halves here, and so it's actually easier to glue the glass first to the half and then later the halves together. And what I really like about this one is like this lower side here, where you have this inner part coming out. Yeah, and yeah, so that's the Enterprise C. Some build pics from the Enterprise. So here you can see that I was using the heavy cardstock, which is actually from packaging. I was using the heavy cardstock inside of the main nacelles pylons to make them stronger, because otherwise only the edge, I didn't think that will be strong enough. Here's the main hull, and you can see here the formers inside. And then this is the saucer, and the problem of the saucer was that the shape didn't hold. So when you pushed on it, it will get together, and that's something which has been solved very well in the original series Enterprise, which I have in another video. And what I actually did here is I actually cut a slot into the whole saucer on the back side, and then I pushed this heavy cardstock in here as well to make the saucer more stable. And another thing that's I encountered with the Enterprise model was actually that the connection, so the connection between the main hull, between the engineering hull and the saucer, does not fit. So as you can see here in the front, actually the angle is not matching the angle of the lower the lower shape of the saucer is not matching. So what I actually ended up doing is to cut in this here, so I could just push this whole thing inside. Now let's look at the two of them in comparison with the actual blueprint. So on the left side, so Clever is of course the Enterprise by Clever Santoro, and Skip is of course the Ambassador by Skip, which he also has an Enterprise as well. So here we can see the saucers look mainly correct, but look at how different the shape of the bridge module is on Skip's model. And there are details missing here, like shield emitters. Shield emitters are missing. Some lifeboat hatches are missing, which makes me wonder if there's another blueprint around somewhere. But this is actually the blueprints that Clever provides in his own model pages, so he even forgot them. And then you can see that here the hull, the engineering hull is much too bold in Skip's version. But he has the engines, which may have also been my mistake when building, but the engines are closer to the saucer here. Then Clever has actually the how to say it, slightly swept pylons correct, which for skip they are straight. Here this is a rounded, the back side is a rounded square almost. This is pretty much oval, whereas this one is almost triangular. So there, and then a lot of detail here is missing. Also the main hull seems to be much too small on Clever's model. Then if we look at, of course, this is a little bit distorted because the photography, so the hull might look a little bit smaller, but you can clearly see that the difference between Clever and Skip is pretty obvious. Also in relation to the size of the engines. Then here we see from the bottom again details missing. Here, like all the lifeboat hatches on the lower side are obviously missing. He has them, yeah, but he doesn't have the shield emitters. Then the phaser bank on the main engineering hull is missing on both. Here you can see that, and this is actually what happens from the former. So the former actually pushes this hull much too big, whereas even then probably the deflector is too big, and the angle of the deflector is not correct. The deflector on Clever's model is almost correct, yeah. Maybe again the fuselage might look too big here. Actually, generally I have the feeling on Clever's model that the main hull is too big, is too narrow and too long. So even if you think about you can clearly see that the proportion of the hull is not correct, clearly not correct. So the back end here is much too big. That's pretty sure. Yeah. So this is the bottom side, and then on the front, again here it's difficult to say because the photo here is distorting. Again, the hull, the engineering hull on Clever's model seems much too small. On Skip's it seems much too fat. So it's basically round. And the interesting thing is that actually, if you compare those two, it feels that the hull is much smaller. It looks much smaller from below than from the front. So I didn't really compare this in 1-to-1 if the blueprint is accurate here. And then finally from the side. So from the side you can see that actually on both models it seems and again this is distorted by the photo, but again you can see it also here, especially on Clever's model, that obviously, well, it's not really clear. It's not really clear if the engines are too big, but like from seen from the side, it feels big. This feels too big as well, and here you can clearly see because there is no distortion in this case. There cannot be any distortion in this case because it's on the same side. The engineering hull seems much too small as compared to the and the swept part of the pylon doesn't seem correct as well. This section should come out more, which is actually correct on Skip's model, whereas he's missing the whole shuttle bay. And of course, the angle of the deflector is clearly wrong on Skip's model. Yeah, and then the position of the pylons. This could be this may be my building. Okay, so when you build it yourself, look at the blueprint and see how you can align it in a way that makes the most sense. This is too far to the back. This is too far to the front. Actually, here it seems, if you here you compare it, Skip seems close enough to the front. Yeah, yeah, I guess this was just me not aligning this good enough. Yeah, and as you can see here, for example, another thing that you could clearly see with Skip is that for Skip, this lower part is again this lower section here is much too long, as it seems to be. The length seems to be correct and Clever, but then again on Clever's model, it seems the fuselage is not high enough, which clearly looks. It clearly looks much more flat, more Galaxy class. Like, yeah. So that's the comparison, and of course they are both nice models, and so far there is not any better model around which I would be aware of. And remember, they are both free. And Clever's model is the one which looks clearly better, at the same size at least. And Skip's model is the one which is easier to build, and also more fun to build. Because on Clever's model they have all of those things which I showed where you don't really know how they should be glued together.
So those are the two free models of the Ambassador class and the Enterprise NCC-1701-C. And if you would like to build them, you can go to the web addresses either here or here. And yeah, you can build a wonderful model. And thank you for watching this video. Until next time.